You just want us to share it as a new post. Basically, like we're live, right? Boom.
We are live. This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks. I have two special guests today, two very special guests today. All the way from Australia, Ahmad Iman and David Breyer, who is in the Midwest of the United States. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Absolute pleasure to be here and great to be here with my friend David as well.
Absolutely. This feels like a reunion tour of some sort. I love this.
Yeah.
That's great. And today we're going to talk about a lot in this hour, and we're going to get right to it. We're going to talk about how to really break through in 2021. But before we do that, if we could do some quick introductions. Ahmad, if you could please go first and introduce yourself. Let us know everything you're up to and especially what's happening on LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, my name is Ahmad Iman, for those who don't know me. I am the ambassador for Success Resources, which is a global seminar company. We work with some amazing people like Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and Richard Branson. I'm a content creator. I'm a content consultant. I am very active on LinkedIn, and I'm sure a lot of people will see this on LinkedIn. And I'm looking forward to this session. And I'm here with my good friend David Breyer. We've done a lot of content together, a lot of work together, so it's going to be a fun session.
Totally. It's like partners in crime. I love it. You know.
Yes.
I mean, so it's it's totally great. So yeah, Ahmad is like he's kind of like the better dressed brother from another mother. You know, I mean, he always like outdresses me. It's like, and you have to understand, I'm totally street right now because right now it's freaking freezing outside. Right now, I call this the SOS weather, which means it's the season of shrinkage, and I will let you fill in the blanks. Okay, I'm just leaving it right there. I'm not going to embellish on that. But it is cold as freaking hell. And so I'm here just trying to stay as cozy as I can. And right now, the things that are keeping me cozy and warm are my two buddies right here, Roger and Ahmed. So
thanks, David. And you're no stranger to the show. You wouldn't mind giving us a brief introduction about who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
All right. Well, who I am, I'm David Breyer, originally from the native New Yorker, now living in the lovely Midwest, living and working in the lovely Midwest. And I basically help clients and I help companies basically rise above the sea of sameness, that echelon of just anonymity where it's kind of like, oh, why aren't we standing up? We're talking all about our crap. Well, that's part of your problem. So I basically help clients with regard to how they actually present themselves in the world so they properly differentiate themselves, not only in how they sound and how they walk, but in how they talk and how they interact. I mean, even one little tidbit, I just literally from one client of mine, we were just talking 2 days ago, and she goes, you told me to do this one thing, and and that's like been blowing up our business. And so I love finding those things that I call that are hiding in plain sight. So that's the basic thing. And we're going to talk about some goodies for 2021, some very, very useful, actionable goodies.
Absolutely. And let's jump right into it. I mean, I know I follow your LinkedIn feed, and wow, it's just amazing how you keep coming out with this new innovative content every single day. And if you can, take us a little bit back further to where before you were really big on LinkedIn. Can you talk about your strategy, what it was, say, over the last 12 to 24 months?
Sure. Look, David's actually part of that, so it's been a fascinating journey. 2 years ago, I started. So October 2018, I started on LinkedIn. And when I started, I had no idea how to create content. I was actually not very keen on creating video. I put out my first video. I think it got something like 150 views, which at the time I had no basis of comparison. So I was pretty happy with that. But it took me 1 hour to record a 47-second video, and that's because, again, I had no idea what I was doing. I was recording a video, thinking my nose looked too big or the lighting was crap, or I stuttered and stammered certain words. And I just kept watching it back, deleting, recording, watching it back, deleting, and going on and on. Probably about a few videos in is where I started to build a bit of confidence. And that was mainly due to the response that I received, right? So people were actually taking in the things that I was giving. They were listening, they were responding, they were engaging, which is amazing. And that's the thing about the LinkedIn community, different to other communities. They're very, very supportive. They're very forgiving. They encourage you to keep going. The biggest thing for me is building that confidence and courage to then actually show my true self on video. Okay, and that was a big breakthrough for me. So I mean, I made a breakthrough with my first, let's call it a breakthrough video, where I spoke about why don't recruiters like my name. All right, it was a video where I spoke about an experience I had 6 years prior, where I changed my name on my resume as a bit of an experiment, and I changed it from Ahmad Imam to Adam Smith's, just to see if there'd be, any change in the process. And the results were incredible. I ended up getting offered some positions as Adam Smith that I didn't get offered as Ahmad Imam. And so I spoke about that, which was great, because I received a lot of encouragement, a lot of support, and I realized, you know what, I can actually speak about whatever's on my mind. And from there, I decided to get a little bit more creative. I decided to do a few ridiculous things, like posting raps on LinkedIn, which was great. And I posted this one rap probably about maybe 6 months into my journey, and I received a call from David Breyer about a couple of days later. And this is what started the journey between me and David, really. And David was like, man, like I just heard that rap, man. You were on point. That was amazing. He goes, but you know what? You can rap. I can beatbox. Why don't we do something together? And so we started brainstorming, and it birthed this idea that just was unstoppable, in my opinion. It was just, I think it was bound to go viral from the beginning. And David and I work really well because we're both very creative. We're both perfectionists, and we both don't care. So we ended up creating this viral rap video called the most epic music video in LinkedIn history. We involved 70 influencers, some celebrities. David was beatboxing, I was rapping, and it went insanely viral, which was amazing. And that video gave me even more confidence to start putting out content that was just a lot more human. I became a lot more values driven, as opposed to being perhaps somewhat ego driven when I started and focusing on vanity metrics and things like that. I started talking about values and how I started, and how I'm living those values, and essentially just being a lot more human and vulnerable. And a lot of people started to believe the things I believed, and that's essentially how I built my following, along with, showing a lot of love to other people as well. But that video was a highlight. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, it was epic. It was epic, and it nearly killed us too. It nearly killed us because of the fact that I was like, well, it was very interesting because of a number of things. One is like, we're kind of doing it, and because there were multiple tracks, and I'm sort of going, so I'm needing to do multiple tracks to make beatbox not just flat, but actually make it, have layers and percussive interest. So I'm doing that whole thing, and then I lay it down, and we agree on how many beats per minute, right? We agree, and so I do it. I send it to Ahmad, and so first of all, you have to tell me. I always say Ahmad. Is it more Ahmed?
I've been letting you say Ahmad for a very, very long time. I don't know why Americans love saying Ahmad. I think it's easier. Look, the way I pronounce it is Ahmed.
Ahmed.
So think of like an armored vehicle, an armored tank.
Oh, okay. Or like if I want some like an Ahmed, like an egg white Ahmed, like for breakfast or something like that. I mean, that right? That would be.
I think it's maybe let's stick to the Ahmed tank.
But it was kind of nightmarish. We literally were discovering what didn't work, sending it from here to there, and we're going, is it my computer that's recording it slow? Is it in the transfer that it's just, because all you got to do is just lose just a hair, not a lot, and then all of a sudden what he's doing isn't just, and we had to like discover this is a nightmare. How do we reverse engineer it? And it was crazy, demanding, but very rewarding.
I think we got to the stage where we're like a month into this. We're not giving up now. We've already put this effort in. Let's just keep it going. And the result was amazing. I was really pleased with the result. But yeah, completely. It was a process.
Yeah, total.
Ahmed, you mentioned something in there that I think is really important for people. Well, many things, but one of the things you said was that you just don't care, right? And could you expand on that a little bit? Because I know what you mean, but some people may think that you really don't care. And if you could just expand.
Yeah, let me explain that. Look, I grew up a very, very shy, awkward kid that let other people's opinions determine my value. And I've grown to realize that, look, other people's opinions do not matter, not in the sense that you don't take them on board, but you don't let other people's opinions determine who you are, what your worth is, what your value is. And so when I say I don't care, I'm saying I'm just going to be completely true to me. And the people that resonate with that are the people that are part of my tribe. People that don't resonate with that, I don't care. Doesn't mean I don't care for them. It just means that it doesn't matter because I know who I am. I'm very comfortable with who I am.
And that must have been a huge breakthrough for you, right? When you made that decision, especially the way you grew up. Once you made that, was it kind of like an aha moment that you said, "Wow, this is what it's like to be me. This is what it's like to be transparent." And people saw that, and your feed just grew, and your followers just grew because you were you.
It took me a long time. So, I mean, I don't want to make it seem like it just happened over the last couple of years while I was on LinkedIn or creating content. Like I've been on a journey to create confidence and courage for the last 15 years. I was a shy, awkward kid at age 18. I came across Tony Robbins, which changed everything for me. But I spent 15 years building my confidence, learning how to speak publicly, learning how to look people in the eyes, learning how to engage people, learning how to communicate the way I do. So, I mean, it's been a long, long ride, but creating content and video content was just a small piece of that because that was something I hadn't actually done previously. So being able to be yourself on camera is a hell of a thing. There's nothing natural or organic about putting a video camera in front of you and speaking to it as if you're speaking to another human being. There's nothing normal about that. So learning that skill set, and it is a skill set that you have to perfect or practice at least, is something that requires confidence and courage in itself. And so that's something that I learned to do. Be confident and courageous enough to be myself in front of this new medium that was camera. And that's a hell of a thing to do. That requires practice.
No doubt. And isn't it amazing how we all grow up differently? David Breyer grows up in New York and Queens. And David, I'm sure your confidence in speaking to people might have been a little different than my way of growing up or Ahmed's way of growing up.
Well, I mean, I think everybody was an awkward moron when they were 18. I mean, I don't think anybody wasn't. I mean, we all were sort of hormonally imbalanced and easily distracted by whatever kind of looked, curvy and leggy that was nearby. I mean, it was like, so I think that was just sort of the nature of being 18. But yeah, look, the bottom line is how does one embrace that? But I think it's more fundamental in that there are those that don't stop at the surface answers of things, that they're a little more introspective, a little more demanding of themselves and others to be like, well, why is that? Right? They're willing to question and challenge. And I think that that's important. And I think that those that I know that have evolved, like with what Ahmed has just described, I think are those who didn't stop at, they didn't stop at a feeling. They persisted. It was like, well, so why? What about that? And I've always been introspective. I don't mean introverted. I mean introspective. I was like, well, why is that? I was always interested in something bigger, and superficial stuff. Some people ask me about these achievements, this, that, that. It's like, as long as it's truly actually impacted others, I'm thrilled. If it's not, then it's a meaningless gesture. It's a meaningless activity. No matter how much I might be doing what I love, that's nice to be doing something I love, but only to the extent that I know that I'm actually helping transform another's level of operating in life.
Fantastic. That's a great segue. Now let's jump into why people are here, why they showed up for us today. And that is, let's talk about some ideas on how to really break through in 2021. we don't have to get into the year 2020. We've all talked about it, but let's talk about moving forward. Let's talk about growth. Ahmed, let's start with you. What are some of the things you're working on for yourself, and what are some of the things you're working on to help others so they could break through as well in 2021?
Yeah, sure. I think we start off with the basics of breaking through, and that is acknowledging that it's been a hell of a year. It's been an absolute roller coaster ride. Some have done well, a lot of people haven't. But taking the time now, what are we, December 16th?
15, yeah, 16 and
no, you have to understand, Roger, that Australia is from the future. They're already tomorrow. They're talking to us from the future. They can already tell us trends in clothing and culture and all kinds of stuff that we don't even know is happening yet.
Oh, you should see what people are walking around with right now. It's unbelievable. It's like Back to the Future Part 2 outside. It's crazy. Flying cars. Look, I think we need to all take time to unplug. And I don't mean just give up on the rest of the year. I mean, take time to actually unplug from social media, unplug from negativity, unplug from the media, unplug from whoever or whatever it is that you need to unplug from, and start to focus on what it might look like for you next year. Okay. So, I mean, setting a 2021 strategy for yourself. And we all focus on setting strategies for staff or setting strategies for our loved ones or focusing on other people's goals. And we rarely actually do that for ourselves. So even something as simple as creating a list of 3 to 5 things that if you achieved or accomplished in 2021, you would be over the moon. You know, it would be an absolute breakthrough for you in 2021 to achieve. So, I mean, I'm starting off there. And there's a lot of the tips I'd love for us to discuss, but I'd love to open this up to you both. 3 to 5 things that we can break through with in 2021. What do you guys believe about not only setting those goals, those audacious goals, but also visualizing them as well?
100%. And, you know, for myself, I would say for the last 10 years, I've tried to do this religiously. And every year I seem to get better at it. And each year I seem to hit more and more. But I also have done one thing that David Breyer talks a lot about, and that is to try to take on a little bit more than I did the year before, to push myself a little harder, to wake up a little bit earlier, to create a little bit more content, to interview one more person. So I think you're right. I think it's great to unplug. I think it's great to take some time for yourself. But I'm also in that mode now where I can't wait for 2021, and I want to really crush it. And I want to set my bar even higher this year than ever before.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I always tend to take an almost 180-degree approach and view to how much is mainstream, the common way of thinking and approaching things. Like the way I see most people approach setting, whether it's setting goals for 2021 or setting goals for their business or their brand or whatever like that. What I see is like they go, how much more of myself can I actually demand? Which I think I personally find completely unworkable, and I find actually very restrictive. So I approach it from the other side. How much more of that problem will I own? Which means a very, very different question, right? Because if we look at it from me, it's, no, all right, there's the problem. It's a more extroverted look at the thing. How much more of that problem can I own? Because the thing that I know is that every leader that any of us have ever admired, every great author, great thought leader, great speaker, great rebel or innovator, it's like they approach things from more of an ownership of the bigger macro problem, and then worked up how to tackle that. And it was like go from the outside in as opposed from an inside out. And so that's been my sort of contrarian way of tackling any of that stuff. Well, I mean, it aligns with what you guys are saying, but it's just a little nuance that I wanted to mention, because I think a lot of people, you know, they're looking at what are my, you know, New Year's resolutions and it's all very like, it's too insular. It's like, get out. How big? Start from there and dial, you know, let the roads go back to you.
I love that. How much of this problem can I take on?
Yep. Because because when you're asked that question that way, where's your attention? It's out there, right? It's like, I mean, let's put it into a sports category. How much of the field, if you're playing any sports, how much of the field am I owning? And I think we've all played one sport or another. And it's like, and if you own the freaking field, if you own the court, you are the master of that freaking game, man. It's like, now you're ready to play. If it's just like you against the team or the, it's like, it just minimizes oneself. And so, yeah, so it's definitely a matter of like, how much ownership can we take out there, and just how much of that am I going to own?
Love that. And Ahmed, you talked a little bit today on your LinkedIn post about offering value, right? Being that person that offers value first. I think you were describing a billionaire from India, and that he was working on solving a problem, not worried about making money. Yep. So to him, the value was in solving that problem. Talk about that and how we could incorporate just that into this next year and some of the tasks we're taking on.
Yeah, I thought it was an awesome concept, and David touched on it as well. I mean, so this gentleman is Ritesh Agarwal. He became the second youngest billionaire on the planet, and second to Kylie Jenner.
Wow. Believe
it or not. But he's the youngest billionaire in India, so youngest billionaire in Asia, essentially. He and this is a story probably about courage, as well as wits and entrepreneurship, because he came from a very obviously Indian culture, and that culture I can resonate with. I come from a bit of a Middle Eastern culture where things are pretty regimented. You kind of have an idea of the path that you should be on, and it's very similar to the path that other people have been on within the family, within the community. And he actually decided to leave home, move 3 hours, move about 3 hours away from home just so he can be away from that dynamic. He dropped out of college and he decided to follow his dreams. His path was based on not focusing on money, but focusing on trying to solve a big problem. Okay, so just like David touched on.
Perfect.
He wanted to solve a big problem. He wanted to make a massive impact or leave a massive impact. And so he actually saw a problem with budget hotels. He worked for 16 hours a day to figure out how to best solve that problem. He became a billionaire 5 years after starting his business. It was just incredible. So, I mean, looking at it from a different perspective, again, without repeating what David mentioned, but focusing on solving a big problem as opposed to focusing on money.
Yeah.
Where is that gap? Where is that blue ocean? Where are people struggling right now? Where are they suffering? Focus on that as opposed to earning $1 from them. And the dollars will tend to come if it's a big problem. And that's the key. We have to focus on the big problems, the ones that are truly going to be impactful. So I thought that story was great. We're going to actually do a show on Level Up TV, our weekly show, after this. So we're going to dive deep into Ritesh Agarwal's story. And it's a bit of a tribute to our Indian audience as well.
Nice.
That's fantastic. Yes, if I could get that link, we'll also put it here in the podcast show notes so people could listen and watch that as well.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Cool.
Well, you just finished up your first brand intervention masterclass a few weeks ago, and I know you're getting ready to launch another one. Talk a little bit about that and how that's changing some lives, but how that's playing into your 2021 and helping others.
I am doing more now per hour than I was doing like 5 years ago, and I've never been known to be a slacker. And it's just, I think when you just demand more of yourself, you either going to rise or crumble. And I'm very resilient, and it's just kind of like, all right. And when I go in and do something, I mean, both of you know this from work, we've all worked together in different capacities. When I go in, I go all in. I don't go like, let's cut corners here. I'm just not a corner cutting kind of guy. And so what happens is these guys, I had a very high standard for what I wanted to achieve, because I wanted to go, how do I actually scale what I know from 40 years of actually building brands, and actually make it so that others can get those insights and implement them like right now over the course of 9 weeks. And so that's what the masterclass was. And it was startling. The results were transformative and startling. I mean, just very specifically, one guy, week 2, just by applying one thing that he learned in the first 2 weeks, closed a client who had previously signed on with another company for $170,000. After speaking with him, they terminated that contract and signed on with him for $212,000. Okay, so it was a $42,000 more because of the value, and that's just one example. That was 2 weeks in. Another got into Forbes, got a Forbes article. Another closed $60,000 from a client. They're in real estate business, and they closed. And it's not all about money, but these are metrics that people can easily understand. There's a lot of other things that happen, but $60K from a client that was hibernating. They hadn't done business with in years, and by applying 1 point, all of a sudden, bam, 30K, 60K of revenue that they did not have anywhere on their radar. But those are some of the things that happen. And then lastly, just this week, I found out that one of our alumni, literally, she started in March of this year, and this is December. So what? That's about 9.5 months. She said, I'm already making more than I used to make in my corporate job already. And so just starting hanging her own shingle with her new brand and new career. So that's just the kind of stuff. And I love it. I love changing people's lives in that way, and having them do it where it's not dependent on me, meaning it's not because of something David said or listening to. I don't need or want people to like freaking go, what would I want them more of themselves. My whole viewpoint was, you don't need more of me, you need more of you. I'm here simply to help you get more of you so your brand can explode. That's it. And it's a very different approach than I've seen before.
And I'm not surprised. That's how you are every single day. You help me work harder. Ahmed, you help me work harder with your posts. Like that's what it's all about. Like, I think we have to continue to surround ourselves with people like Ahmed. You talked about Tony Robbins. I mean, look, when we do this, it elevates our own game. I had the opportunity to interview Ed Milet a couple of years ago. That was huge. Wow. I had been listening to him for a couple of years of his podcast. So to be able to sit down with him. So I guess my point is, don't be afraid to go after and find a mentor or find someone out there, elevate your peer group, because that will help elevate your game. Ahmed?
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, we're talking about the environment that you keep, your surroundings, the people that either inspire you or drain you. You can have people around you that are positive, optimistic. They can be negative, pessimistic. You can have people around you that actually give you more energy, or you can have people around you that are what I call energy vampires. They suck the energy out of you and just feed you that negativity. It is so important. And I remember doing a show on Will Smith, and this is Will Smith's ethos, and he is all about being tunnel vision on his dream and his passion, right? So when he started off as a rapper, I'm sure a lot of you, well, I'm sure both of you remember, we're probably similar ages. And his dream was to be a massive movie star. He made a commitment to himself that anything that doesn't actually serve his dream, he's not going to do. Okay, so if his mates or if his boys called him out for a few drinks or whatever they wanted to do, or head to the club, and it didn't serve his dream, he didn't do it. And he compromised that for years while he was achieving this goal. And I love that. That's actually something that I adopted this year. Like, anything that doesn't actually serve my dream or my passion, outside of my family, of course, I don't need to do. It's really that simple.
Yeah. And tell us real quick, how did it work? How did this year go for you by making that decision?
It's been a very productive year, and I don't like saying that because I know a lot of people have struggled this year. And it's been a very, very difficult year for most. It's been a crazy year for events. I mean, let's talk about events. You know, we went from at Success Resources 520 plus events last year to 0 overnight. You know, we had to adapt, and I hate using the word pivot, but we had to pivot into the virtual space, do something completely different, and make that adapt. So that's been tough, but we made it work. But also being optimistic, and the thing about being optimistic is that it doesn't mean you're always happy. It just means that whatever comes your way, you don't let that get you down, you know, and you take the opportunity to then move on. So I've been very optimistic, but I've always taken that approach that anything doesn't serve me, I'm just not going to do. And I've been a lot more productive. I've been able to get a lot more done. I've been able to strategize a lot more. I've had a lot more energy. It's come down to the food I eat, the things that I choose to focus on doing outside of my work. So, I mean, it all boils down to that. So I think it's a great MO, and I take that from Will Smith.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And it reminds me of something I want to talk about, because I mentioned this last week. I want to mention it again. I love writing books. I love helping people write books. It's something I'm really passionate about. I love people because I know what it did for me in my career. I started about 10 years ago, but I'm writing a book right now called Build the Best You. And what I did was I basically it's a 44-day reading process. So you read 3 to 4 pages every single day for 44 days. But a lot of the things you talked about in that Will Smith example are things I'm putting into this book. And I'm really excited to get this out, mainly because I want to offer more value. I want to pass on some of these things that I've learned to others, just like you're passing on what Will Smith did. You know, so that's a great example. And I'm really excited about that. But I challenge people, think about writing your own book next year. You know, we don't know what it's going to be like in 2021. Hopefully things open up pretty quickly. But if not, spend a little time every single day. I get up early in the morning. I write for 30 to 60 minutes every single day. And before you know it, you know, the pages add up, and you could have a book before too long. David, you wrote a book. You know what it's like.
Yeah. In fact, you know, it's like, I mean, like this little guy, right? I mean, you know, I mean, he's a little dude, and that's what he does, right?
But what a silver fox.
And by the way, I want to just point out the inspiration for the clothing that I wore in this particular bobblehead thing. Ahmed was my inspiration. Okay, right there. Okay, and so.
Well, let me ask you, Dave. I mean, I've had a chance to read your book. Your book's incredible.
Appreciate it.
Where do you start? Right. So someone out there that is going to start writing a book next year, where did you start putting everything that was in your head down on paper in such a way that people can absorb it?
Well, there's two answers to that. The first was the decision to write the book, which was basically after I realized, I've been doing this when I started to look at it. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I keep hearing the same questions and the same confusions, no matter the industry, no matter the size of the company, no matter the age of the company, no matter where they are geographically. It didn't matter whether it was B2B, B2C, this, that, the other. And so I was like, that's weird. My God, I really have to share this. So that was the first sort of fire. And then after that, it was, and it was the same question my question that I challenged myself with on writing the book, which kind of became my stake in the ground, was the same sort of question and premise that I had when I first decided to start my blog. And I was like, well, okay, there's some pretty smart minds out there that I admire. People, you know, I mean, there's Seth Godin and there's Simon Sinek, and there's some great smart minds, and David Ogilvy, and, you know, some fantastic minds. I'm going, what can I do? I don't want to just be another. I was never interested in just being another. I didn't want to just add to just the sea of stuff. So what can I do is different? Oh, well, none of those people I've mentioned actually do this every day. They don't build brands. They don't have the ability to design. They don't have the ability to paint. They don't have the ability to creatively strategize. They would have great insights, but then there's this other whole layer that I could introduce. So that was what prompted me in terms of the blog, but then that's also what prompted me in terms of the book, because I wanted to write the book. I mean, you've both seen the book. You know, it's not designed like any other book. It's big type and it's visual and those kind of stuff. So I was like, how do I provide people something different and more valuable in my eyes than what's already out there? Because I saw, and that was the starting point. If you can answer that, I found that to be kind of like that was the thing that pulled me forward to be able to move forward, because then I had a reason, because I knew I was filling a void. To me, just doing something that's been done 1,000 times or 10,000 times was not exciting. I didn't feel that would be rewarding for myself or others. So as long as I could find what can I provide that already isn't out there, then I had a game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to add to that a little bit that, I think, for most people that I work with, it's really about, number one, making the commitment. As David said, you have to make that commitment. It has to be the right time. If you're not going to commit to writing the book, it's not just like if you're not going to commit to losing weight or exercise, it's not going to happen on its own. Once you make that commitment, then it's really about getting organized. Very similar as what you talked about earlier about writing down your goals. Same thing, writing out your outline, expanding upon it, seeing the book all the way through before it's finished. The book's already written. You already know what it is in your mind. You just have to pull it out and bring it out to the world with your creativity. So everyone has a book, at least one book in them. It's just a matter of taking the time and then, starting a new habit, writing every single day, a little bit every single day. And look at all the big guys write books, all the Tony Robbins, everyone's busy. So that's never an excuse to say, I'm too busy to write a book. It's making that commitment.
Yep. Exactly. So go ahead.
Oh, Ahmed, I interrupted you before I said that. I think you were going to ask David something or something off of that.
No, I just thought it was a great way to summarize it, focusing on pain points, the questions people ask repetitively and frequently, and then looking to make it unique. The book was definitely unique. Haven't seen anything like it. It stood out. It stands out on my shelf to this day. So that was some solid advice. Awesome.
Cool. By the way, I it looks like Skylar may be actually watching. He did drop a comment, rise above the noise. And so Ahmed, so I know this is going to have more clout coming from the future. So you should say, hey, Skylar, you and David haven't spoken in over a week. Call him, just to give him that message. Right,
Skylar,
right,
come on.
Tell him right now.
It's been a week, Skylar. Make it happen.
Make it happen, Skylar.
Was that assertive enough?
Well, it was all right. It was all right.
Oh yeah, I'll practice that.
Well, you got the charisma going for you. So I mean, I don't have all the charisma going on tonight. So I mean, I got to be a little more like kind of in your face. A little more like
you ooze charisma. I don't think that's an issue. Another thing that came up this year, I think, for everyone's focused on leveling up, right? Like everyone's focusing on going to that next level and achieving things, accomplishing things, doing things that we hadn't done. I think this year forced everyone to kind of pause and instead of going to the next level externally, perhaps go to the next level internally. All right. So, I mean, what triggered everyone this year? Because, I mean, everyone was triggered this year in some way, whether some fear or some limiting belief. The last few years have been amazing business-wise for most people. And this year just put a halt on everything and raised a lot of limiting beliefs that a lot of people had. Yeah. And so those triggers are the fears that we can address, right? Like they're messages from the universe letting us know that that's something we can actually grow through. And so I think another tip to break through is taking time to first level up yourself before you start leveling up everything else externally, because those limiting beliefs will come back. Those fears will resurface. Things will continue to trigger you. And that's something that I certainly learned this year. So, I mean, even this year, I was focusing on things that I hadn't focused on before spiritually, right? Nothing to do with me as a business person or anything I did day to day business wise. It was focusing on me leveling up spiritually. And I have to say, the process is not an easy one because when you start leveling up spiritually and you really start to address the things that are holding you back or have held you back for a very long time, it brings up a lot of pain. It brings up a lot of repressed memories. And those things just have to be addressed before you can move on. And so a lot of people don't want to put in that work, but that work has to be done if you want to seriously level up externally in business, in life, and elsewhere. So what do you both do? What do you both do to level up internally? I mean, what's the process for both of you?
Yeah, David, go ahead.
I mean, basically, I mean, I have been a student of spirituality since my teens. So, I mean, I've always been on that path of increased self-awareness. And so for me, I'm very fortunate that I actually have a wife who has remarkably similar values, as well as a comparable degree of crazy, not crazy. I would say a willingness to be like just be absolutely absurd if that's what the moment calls for. You know, without like what you mentioned earlier. I mean, it was basically without caring about, oh, are we going to be seen as, because we basically amuse the living shit out of one another just because we have shared comparable values. And and the other thing too is that, and again, this is a place where I see this is a potential like barrier, major speed bump for a lot of people when they're doing sort of spiritual inner work. It gets so insular, so internal, to the point that I always look at balances in terms of inflow and outflow and different things of that nature. That's why, like when I take something like the masterclass, I am giving back. And the more that I give back, the more it just absolutely, it's unbelievable how much I get back by giving, but it's exporting that spirituality. To me, spirituality is not an internal, okay, it ends here in this little package that we got. To me, it's like, okay, this is the launch pad. How far out does it go? And so I'm all about that ripple effect and it going outward. So that's what I do a lot.
I love that, David. Yeah, and for myself, very similar to David, I've been on a path for, I would say, all of my adult life, but every year trying to get better, and taking it deeper, you know, and was born and raised Catholic, and really started to study the religion, and not only the Catholic religion, but other religions as well. And it brings me to a point that, you know, I typically talk about this to my close. And to me, religion is our man-made tool, you know, to spirituality, to the higher power. And it's so powerful once you tap into it. I like to call it the creative unconscious. If we allow ourselves to be open to the creative unconscious, then so much could flow through us. And as David mentioned, you know, bringing that out to the world every single day, not just if you're praying or meditating or whatever you want to call it, or going to church, it's living it. It's asking yourself the tough questions and then bringing that forth in everything you do every single day, by not reacting or overreacting, by giving someone the space that they may need, by being empathetic and sometimes sympathetic. So, and I feel it's a constant growth. Every year we could get better at becoming more, you know, spiritually divine.
I love that. And I think I think one word that stands out for me is intention. You know,
Absolutely.
what's our intention for doing something? You know,
Completely.
what's my intention for starting this business? What's your intention for doing the masterclass, David? You know, what's your intention for having a TV show? You know, it always stems back to that. And if the intention is clear and also very real to you, you know, void of any ego when you're doing it purely to serve, it's amazing how the universe works. And I know you touched on that, David, but when you send that elevator back down, somehow things start to work out for you. And I don't want to get too metaphysical here, but sometimes it's difficult to explain. Good things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's rewarding, and it's hard. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody a day or two ago, and I said, I can't put my finger on it, but like, you know, some seriously cool shit's going down, you know, that is great. I mean, to me, I can guarantee if any one of us were told right now, you can no longer help other people, no matter what you do, it would have no ability to actually influence and positively impact others. That would be like I think that would be like a stake in the heart of each of us. It would be like, you'd be like, what? Like, what the hell am I living for? Right? They'll be like, my God, that's like a death sentence. So to me, that the amount that we all can each help, I know we all underestimate. And I will always push myself, and I will always push others to go, okay, good on doing that. Great. Now, how much more can you help another? Not to make less of what's been done, but to look at how much more are you actually capable, because you keep pushing and keep pushing, keep pushing. It's the only way that you're going to actually learn and realize how big your ability actually is, how far reaching it's capable of actually achieving in the world.
Wow.
I love that.
Love that. So look, guys, we only have a few minutes left. I wanted to save the end to talk about something you're both really, really good at. And I know other people want to learn from you today, and that is creating content. Are you going to sing a song?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm ready to create content. I don't know where you're going. I'm just getting myself ready.
So, Ahmed, give us some idea of where you're going with your content in 2021, if you would.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I think David's got that mic set up. I think we'll give people a bit of a preview. He's not putting that mic down. I can see that look in his eyes. He's looking at me like. So about 12 months ago, David and I put together this Christmas video, and we were just giving a bit of a Christmas message. And I know we spoke earlier about unplugging, but why don't we give them a bit of a sample or maybe a bit of a remix of that? What do you reckon?
I think it's great. So, remind me of the tempo. What was our tempo? What was it?
It was the Christmas tempo, so Christmas melody. All right. So dun 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 dun.
All right. All right. Correct.
Addict, put your phone away. Unplug from all devices, reconnect with family. Social addict, it's the holiday. Unplug from all devices, reconnect with family. David's still going. So we love doing a lot of ridiculous stuff like that, but it's fun, it's edgy, and it brings me to my point. You know, we're just being human. We're just being ourselves. We don't care how ridiculous we look, but we're giving people an opportunity to see us as in the human beings behind the business personas. And that's what it's all about. And if they connect with that, great. I'm happy to do business with you. If they don't connect with that, no problem. You know, I hope you got something out of it. And that's my intention for next year as well. Just continue being human, peel back a few layers and let people see you. let your values drive you. Focus on your instincts and your intuition, and just let it happen. And I think a lot of the content that both David and I produce, either together or separately, I mean, it's very, very clear we're letting our values drive us, and we're also just happy to be a little bit ridiculous. We're just happy to be a little bit kooky, and let people see this other side of us. But my message for anyone watching is just 2 words: just be human. Okay, let people see that human being behind the business persona. And I know this is a professional platform, or LinkedIn is at least a professional platform, and people put on that facade or that professional character, and it's very easy to fall into because we're technically, I guess, at work or putting on this work persona. But people fall in love with you as a human being, right? And I don't want to get into branding because we've got the branding man here, but they fall in love with you as a personal brand as opposed to a business brand. And so that's my message in terms of creating content. And that's my intention for next year. I'm going to continue being vulnerable, continue being myself, continue letting my values drive me, and whoever believes the things that I believe and connects with me on that level, then beautiful.
Yeah. By the way, first of all, that is awesome, and I need to let you know, our buddy Bill Dolan. Do you know Bill? Ahmed, do you know Bill?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So he said this rap made the whole live worth it. He goes, "I'm in tears," is what he said. So it was
a little bit sloppy, Bill, but I mean, it was 12 months since we did that one.
But some things are best sloppy. Like, a good home cooked meal, if it's really tasty, can be sloppy and still be very enjoyable. Because after all, it's like,
Okay, David, give us your 2021 content extravaganza. Where are you going with it?
Rapid fire pivoting and being fluid as hell. I mean, if you did not, you being those that are listening to this, did not realize the importance of the ability to pivot, not only pivot, but pivot fast, be hyper attentive, hyper responsive, not hyper reactive, but hyper responsive, going, ooh, the dynamics have changed, the needs have changed, this have changed. If you are not able to do that fast pivoting and be highly fluid, you will suffer. And so to me, if you learned nothing else from 2020, is that you must be fluid as hell. You've got to be able to like, okay, how can I up the game fast? How can I shift the level of service fast? How can I change the level of value that I bring to people fast? How can I be responsive on social media? How can I blah, 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 blah. So it's highly attentive, highly responsive. It's like reaction time. You're never going to, if you're playing basketball, you're never going to pass to the guy that you're like never quite sure. Is he paying attention? Is he looking at me? Is he aware of the court? Am I going to throw it and it's going to hit him just in the shoulder and he's going to go, dude, I wasn't watching? You're not going to have confidence in that person. The same thing that happens on that court there is the same thing that happens in business. So you've got to be known to your vendors, to your clients, to your colleagues, to everyone up and down the line, to be attentive, responsive, proactive, anticipating, looking to what's next. Not only one what's next, 5 what's nexts. You got to, how much into the future are you looking? That's the stuff that's where my attention's at. That to me, if you have that down as a foundation, 2021 will be very much better than it is.
And as a last question, I'd love to ask you both, help people that are still intimidated by posting, by reaching out to people. They're still hiding behind that mask. What do you say to them to offer them some support heading into this next year?
Let me say this, and I experienced the same thing. Like I said, when my first video took me an hour to record a 47-second video. And from that and the response that I received after posting, what I realized is nobody cares what you look like. Nobody cares what you sound like. What they care about is your message. Okay, so just focus on delivering your message. And if you've got a message that adds value or helps someone or serves someone, then that is the intention, and then that is your purpose. And everything else is secondary to that. The lighting is secondary. I mean, my lighting is terrible right now. Your appearance is secondary. I mean, you might want to make sure you brush up okay if it's LinkedIn at least. But all of that is secondary. Nobody cares. Okay, but if you have a message that really breaks through, I mean, let's take Gary Vee as an example. I mean, he's wearing his hat backwards. Sometimes he's not clean shaven, but his messages break through. Like, you watch his content and you go, holy crap, that was a great gem. You know, I can explore that further. So focus on the delivery of your message. And the best way to approach that is, especially if it's professional content like LinkedIn, the exact same approach that you take when you're sitting down in front of a client and talking about your value proposition and helping serve them is the exact same approach and tone that you take when you're sitting in front of a camera and recording a piece of content. There's no different. Record a piece of content and deliver a message like you're sitting opposite your friend having dinner. You know, that's the tone and level of approachability that you want. So my message there is, if you're struggling with creating content because you have a fear of being judged, or you don't like the way you sound or look on camera, just focus on your message. Think about one message per piece of content and how you're going to best deliver and articulate that. And that's it. Everything else is secondary to that.
And I would complement that with one additional component, which is, if you're so stifled because you're so hyper focused, you're going through perfectionitis, kind of, oh, it's not all that kind of craziness that can easily stand in the way of getting stuff done. I sometimes have to ask myself this, not terribly often, but occasionally. I'll go, is there going to be someone that's going to benefit from what I'm about to share? Yes. And if that's the case, I now have an accountability to actually deliver that. At that point, it becomes an act of selfishness for me to be concerned about, oh, my hair isn't right or whatever, right? So now all of a sudden your priorities are readjusted and recalibrated because you're there to serve. And if you show up with that I have found that to definitely be a good tool to unstick it as well.
Wow. What a great way to end it, David. I'm so glad you talked about that. Ahmed, Imam, thank you so much for coming on tonight. David Breyer, thank you so much. You both delivered a tremendous amount of gold to our viewers, and I'm very appreciative for you coming on. And let's do this again.
Absolutely, and we should do some outro. We should do some outro music, Ahmed. So I'll just like.
Yeah, wait. Before we do that, one second. If you guys could just quickly just let people know how they could contact you, and if you have anything up and coming that you want them to know about.
All right, I'll lay down some background music for you to do what people should be reaching out for you.
Okay, you can find me on LinkedIn at the Ahmed Imam. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Feel free to reach out. Something else I'm excited about is thecontentgames.com. I want you to check that out. Thecontentgames.com. If you're struggling with creating content, I can absolutely help. Okay, so check out the community, get involved, and David, you finish off, and then let's do an outro that really takes people out.
All right, cool. So yeah, bottom line is for sure, you can certainly reach for me on LinkedIn. You could definitely go to risingabovethenoise.com, RASING, risingabovethenoise.com. Tons of content, tons of articles and stuff to show you and give you real insights into branding. And of course, if you are looking at crushing it in 2021, the Brand Intervention Masterclass literally will change your game. I tell you that with no doubts or reservations. I would say if you are interested in checking it out, DM me on LinkedIn. DM me, bang. Or here, I'll even go one step further. That's right. I'm going one step further. You see this? You see this, suckers? You see this right here? You see this? I'm giving you my cell phone right now. You can text me and I will give you the freaking information. Text me 612-868-6017. That is my direct line on my cell. Okay? That's how into this I am. Trust me. Don't F around with your freaking dreams. When your dreams are at stake, cut the bullshit. Come on, give them the power that they deserve. And that takes you. So that's all I'm saying with regard to that. Boom.
Beautiful. Well,
Gentlemen.
let's hit the beat and outro. You can cut away at any moment here, Roger, so it's up to you. Social addict, put your phone away. Unplug from all devices to connect with family. Social addict, it's the holiday. Rest up and get ready for a Netflix.